I'd like to call this meeting of the School District of Baraboo Board of Education to order for Monday, July the 13th, 2015 with roll call. Mr. Cummings.
Here.
Mr. McNevin.
Here.
Mr. Meering.
Here.
Mr. Mortimer.
Here.
Ms. Riley is not with us, nor is Mr. Vedro, and Bodak is here. Continue with the pledge. The flag's behind the counter. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting of June the 22nd as printed.
I so move to approve those.
Sorry.
Motion by Meering, seconded by McNevin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
I will abstain, I was not.
No. Mr. Cummings, abstention. Still have enough to pass the minutes. Minutes thus approved. Brings us to correspondence. I have none. Mr. Meering, you forwarded several. I will let you interject.
Plenty of them. The two main ones that I sent was, one was from Senator Ron Johnson. In Washington, they're reviewing the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which is commonly known as No Child Left Behind. And so that is certainly a very active legislation that which will have impacts on us. And the other one was regarding Joint Finance Council's motion 999, which had many provisions in it, and one of it was regarding the WA policy and participation by, in this case, some homeschooling students, which was apparently line item vetoed by our governor today. So there's plenty of action in both Washington and Madison, and the policy committee will be very busy this year, I'm sure of it, because of that. So those are my two correspondence.
Thank you. Administrative correspondence was included in your board packet. Anything to add to that, Ms. Miller?
No, I just would like to highlight again that St. Clair Hospital and Health Services is donating $2,000 to the high school to use for their EMT course, which is exciting.
Thank you. Any other administrative correspondence? Hearing none, I'd like to move on to public viewpoints. Is there anyone here for public viewpoints tonight? Hope not. I don't even know if we have a mic set up. Any public viewpoints?
Oh.
Any public viewpoints? Hearing none, I'd like to move on to staff and student community recognition, and I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Miller.
All right. So I actually let the cat out of the bag, and Annie knows that we're recognizing her today. So Annie, if you please would stand. We want to recognize you for your service to the school district as the Baraboo News Republic reporter. Annie's moving on to do law school in Madison, correct?
Yes.
And so this is her last board meeting with us, and actually this is Rhonda Seebecker.
Oh, yeah.
And she's going to be taking over. This is her first day,
Yes.
Baraboo News Republic. So welcome. But Annie, we just want to thank you for always covering the facts of the school district and your positive voice in covering our stories and helping us celebrate the district and strengthening the community with your stories too. And also, we're going to miss the relationship that we have with you. It's been very positive. It's a trusting relationship, and we're going to truly miss you.
I will miss everyone too. Thank you very much. Thank you for your transparency and, all of you for your availability. And I think we both serve the community. So thanks for keeping that in mind as we've dealt with each other, and I'll miss you all. Thank you very much.
All right.
Brings us then to continuous school improvement. We have the 2015-2018 strategic planning next steps. Ms. Miller and Ms. Green.
Yep, so Nikki's going to pass out some new materials to you. We already have shared the strategic plan with you for your approval in late spring. Tonight, we just want to share with you our professional look now for our strategic plan, and as we're gearing up to share these materials with the city of Baraboo tomorrow, we're delivering a whole bunch of them there, and they're going to use them to welcome families into the community, as well as Nikki's been working with the realtors group, and they're going to take a bunch of these materials and also use those to welcome families. And as soon as Nikki's done here, she's going to just show you a little bit what's inside these folders. And if you look carefully, some of you made the materials.
So after the strategic planning process wrapped up, we really took a look at how we could share the district information with the community. We worked with local printer and designer Econo Print to develop some professional looking materials, and we also developed a couple of the things in there ourselves at the request of the local realtors. I'm gonna start with the big piece, the poster.
And so I put it up there, right?
So we have a couple of big pieces that Econo Print helped us with. Each building will have a framed poster like this in their new office space, as well as a banner stand containing most of the same information. It's a little more visual, colorful with more pictures. It sits about this tall. There is one on display in the district office, so you can check it out next time you come visit us. We incorporated a couple different elements into all of the pieces very consciously. The first one being the tagline under the logo, a district of distinction, referencing the award, the District of Distinction Award we received from District Administration Magazine earlier this year. The next one being the hashtag Bear We Proud, which is how we tag all of our content on social media. We also have the Engage, Learn, Grow, which is the district motto that came out of the strategic planning process. And the last thing that we felt was really important to do was use our own pictures of our students and staff instead of using stock photos that the designer could have provided. We thought that gave a real, it gave it a real element. It really reflects our district.
Oh, yeah.
So now moving on to the folders, the printed materials. The folders themselves reflect a lot of the same components that are on the posters and the banner stands. On the left-hand side of the folders are profile sheets for each of our buildings, as well as the indoor pool and Barrow Newland Stadium. Those were created at the request of the realtors. They have the district registrar information on them, as well as an elementary school map on the backside. They felt those would be really helpful for new families moving into the area. On the right-hand side, getting my rights and lefts confused. On the right-hand side is the strategic plan brochure, which goes into our 4 strategic directions in much more detail, and it breaks it down to how they relate to our different groups of stakeholders. There's also a bookmark, which covers our social media a little more in depth. There's a copy of the larger posters that are in each building, and there is a copy of the District of Distinction letter. Is there any questions about any of our content? I think overall, we are on a great path in communicating not only the strategic plan info, but district info in general to the community. And like Lori said, the folders will be going to city buildings tomorrow, to realtors tomorrow to hand out to new families. We'll also have them in each office of the buildings and with the district registrar.
So during our district registration, we have enough materials to hand out to all the families as well. And we'll use these materials in a variety of different ways as we move forward throughout the next 3 years with our strategic plan. I just want to thank Nikki too for all her work on these materials, and I think it gives us a nice professional look with the community and outside of the community as well. Next steps with this district strategic plan in the fall, we're going to start up with our focus groups and soliciting those who are interested in participating. And we're intending to do quarterly progress updates to the board on each of the strategic directions.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Ms. Miller. Brings us then to reports, and first up from C.G. Schmidt, we have Jen Mason to give us an update as to where we are today versus where we were 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago.
I told you.
Wait,
I love
I'll make you
PowerPoint.
busy.
Some of us are happy.
Can we get full screen?
a little discombobulated. All right, so this is East Elementary. This is the best thing I've seen all last week. This is my favorite thing of last week. That's the exterior on the left and the interior on the right. So seeing that emerge, that's probably the best thing I've seen. Seeing those window openings emerge and seeing that really finally taking shape. And as soon as we get that thing enclosed, then we get to start on the inside, which is the fun part. So I promised Doug at the tour last week, 2 weeks ago, that I would show him what that detail is gonna look like. So you can see where all that glass is gonna be based on this rendering.
Mhm.
And then along each side of the building, even on the other side where on the west side, there's also gonna be this metal paneling here. It's gonna surround the top and all around the front, the main entrance. So it's really gonna tie it all together, make it all look new and fresh on the front. So speaking of, our next construction tour is next Monday. Doug was the only person that came, so he's not my favorite board member.
So you're not the only one who says that. He's ours too.
So it's next Monday on July 20th, so we're gonna be starting at East at 5:30, and we're also gonna review Jack Young Middle School and the high school. But there is commonalities between all the schools, so once you kind of see those three, I'll answer questions for all of them, if anybody wants to attend. This is what's happened at Jack Young Middle School. This was kind of a big deal last week, is that the canopy went up. So that's what the canopy's gonna look like, and this is what it's a part of. So there's gonna get a roof on this, and then there's gonna be metal panels that surround it there. You're gonna get dimensional lettering, and then you get a new entrance window here. And then you get a new flagpole, and you get new lighting that flashes on. There's the new light poles here. So this is just the start to a lot of changes to the exterior at Jack Young Middle School, so we're pretty excited about that. Something so small makes such a big difference.
Is that a stairway that goes down next to the wall there?
That is off that loading dock.
Okay.
That's existing.
I don't know, I didn't see Dan here on that top of the moisture coming in through the
Electrical room?
Up on that row.
We did look at that last week. We were in the electrical room, and what we're gonna have to do is probably remove the concrete here so that we can dig out and waterproof all of that and put drain tile to lead the water out and away from the building, and then put that back. So that's something that's is of the essence, so we're gonna work on that this week. Getting that pricing together. This is the time to do it, and we gotta get it done by the time school starts again.
Yeah, I know they've had similar problems there before, and had that work done.
Drain tile will take that water away from the area. You don't want it anywhere near the building. And we have a product we're gonna use to coat the walls to make sure that any damage that's been done is repaired.
Where are you going to drain that water to?
Out.
Out
The
where?
engineer's directing us to do that.
Pardon me?
The engineer is gonna direct us how to do that. So he's working on the detail right now. He just took a look at it last Wednesday.
Does a lot of water drain into that area?
Enough. It's
Okay.
scary.
Yeah.
Any water there, you don't want it by all that electricals.
Okay, that'll be good to look at then
Yeah.
next week too.
Yeah. So this is glazing at West Elementary. This has the most new windows in the classrooms of all the schools right now. They're the easiest to do. These are light bronze in color, they're more energy efficient, and they're just better windows all the way around. You'll definitely notice a difference in life cycle costs and just general comfort in those rooms. This is the start to the west corner, which I know looks a little scary to people, but it's exciting for us to see that framing start, and then windows will follow, and then all the interior partitions inside. And you get a new entry, and you also get metal panels along the bottom. Again, this is all going to be very dressed up, very different from what you're used to. This is the parking lot update. So what we did was we pulverized it in place, and by pulverizing it in place, you're reclaiming all that existing material and making the overall lot stronger, like we talked about earlier in the fall. So this is, the pulverizing only took 1 day, so that was pretty exciting. And this, on the bottom picture, you see the preparations for the sidewalks, and we put sidewalks, those should be in today, I haven't looked today. And then they are in between the bus lane and the parking lot.
Was there any surprises you found in the yard?
No, it came up really, really nice. So we're real lucky. So none of that subgrade was exposed to the sunlight, which is exactly what we wanted. We don't have to use much of that allowance to fill in with stone. It worked out really, really well. So you're gonna have a really great lot, a very strong lot, and a better lot. So it eliminated those reflective cracks we talked about when we were looking at a new design. So now, since you pulverized everything, you've actually pulverized all those cracks. So you're not chasing them anymore, and they're not gonna reflect up to the surface. So you have a stronger lot all around. And we didn't have to spend as much money as materials, so it was a really great choice, really good option.
Good.
So this is what's going on, so I don't forget. This top picture is right past this wood partition. That's the new high school office. So the masonry started in all the schools right now, so that all the walls are taking shape really quickly. The roofing work is nearing completion since the weather is holding up barely. Parking lot, we need another week before we can start paving. And then as soon as they're done paving that, they move to Al Beerman. Same with the roof. The roof should start this week at Al Beerman. For Wilson, that's a lower picture. That's what the library looks like now. The overhead ductwork is complete for the heating and cooling. And then the ceiling grid's being installed in 2 phases. So we want to get, as soon as we take ceiling out, we want to be able to put the ceiling back in as quickly as we can. We don't like to leave that exposed. But timing's a good balance because you don't want a bunch of greasy fingerprints from people getting back up there. And the guys have greasy hands. And none of them will claim it, even if they have black fingertips when they're telling you it wasn't them. Jack Young Middle School, the STEM room renovation continues. So we did that center shaft wall that was built with new masonry. The office and reception area has started. We did a lot of work on the exterior like I showed. The East Elementary, the building enclosure is continuing. They started the overhead ductwork where the old library used to be, where the new office is going to be. And the interior partitions are up next. We have a lot of work in that area, obviously. West Elementary, again, the interior and exterior office framing has started. And the windows are nearly complete. We just had a couple to abate last week, and all those openings should be closed up this week. Al Beerman, all the office interior walls have started, and then the roofing in the new parking lot is going to begin this week. North Freedom is just a small part, it's the smallest school out of all of them, but we are working on that renovation, both HVAC-wise and drywall-wise. We found a couple surprises, but we fixed them last week, and we're carrying on. What's happening at all the schools is that we were able to resolve a lot of problems we have with the mechanical systems and how they were routed. So we did that, and now that all of the schools are pretty much essentially the same, where we pulled out the unit vents, we're putting in the piping, and the new unit vents ship out this week, and we just put them into place and do some of that above the floor piping next week. We got door frames, which is a long lead item, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal for us. So the door frames are going in, and everything's taking shape, and everything's falling into place just like we want. So that's all I have for my last PowerPoint presentation. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, I'm looking forward to the tour next.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at the
And my other board members.
Right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Up next, and already on top of it, Mr. Prefer with the update on our busing and transportation.
So we are sending out a correspondence to parents that I just passed out to you. It's a letter, and the letter relates to some transportation changes that we're making next year. Really, we sat down with Cobison both at the beginning, at the end of the year, and as an administrative team, we had discussions on what are some things that we could improve with transportation for the next year. I know Barrett School District of Baraboo was with a different company for many, many years. Having a new company come in, it was just a good time to get a fresh perspective of how our transportation system works and get some feedback both from us and from the company on some things we can do. So we identified 2 areas that we want to look at for next year, those being safety and efficiency. Safety for obvious reasons, that's number 1 goal of any transportation system is to provide safety to all the children in the district. And if we could save some bucks while achieving that, that's really what we're looking at. So at this point, we've been able to identify some changes that we really are stoked about moving forward into the next year. Something that, as I came in new and spent the first 5 days of school up at the transfer lane, I took a look at that and thought there has to be a better way of doing this, and there is. So something we'll be doing next year is we'll be separating riders. So that means 4K and K students will ride a set of buses to West. Elementary riders and kindergarten riders at the other elementary schools will ride another set of buses, and middle school and high school riders will ride yet a different set of buses. Separating riders accomplishes a number of things. First and foremost, it's the only way to be able to almost eliminate that transfer lane. If you put all of, let's say, GL Wilson, if you go to a community and you're only putting elementary students on that bus, rather than taking that bus, taking it up to the transfer lane, dropping off a set of students, and then driving down to GL Wilson, rather than doing that, the bus will now pick up and go directly to the school. Except in some certain situations. If there are private school riders riding those buses, and that would be the middle school and high school buses, there may be a need to do some transfers of private school students, but in terms of public school students, there will be no transfers up at the transfer lane. There may be a couple transfers here and there if there are students that, for instance, live in East District but have been placed at GLW. There may be a couple transfers happening at the school, but by and large, that will be it.
Is this going to cost more?
No, it's not. I'll get to that. That's where I come in with the fireworks at the end. That's
Safety.
Another added bonus that came into play as we were looking at this is decreased ride times. So we had a parent come last year and have a public viewpoint that my child, if they wanted to ride the bus, it's going to take an hour and da-da-da. They didn't even want to put their child on the bus because it was too long of a ride. We really feel by eliminating that transfer lane and having to have the bus drive to the transfer lane, sit at the transfer lane, then take off and go to another school, you're eliminating that whole situation. So you're really going to cut down on ride times. And we're hoping that no bus route will be longer than 45 minutes. That's the goal. The ultimate threshold is an hour, but the goal is 45 minutes. So we'll see how that plays out as we're building routes. We're in the process of building routes right now. There are a couple items that I want to bring to the board's attention just in case you get feedback or questions from community members or student parents. You may have community members that are living out in North Freedom and they see a bus come down their street and then they see a second bus come down their street. And they may be thinking, wow, that's really inefficient. Why the heck are there two buses going down the same road? Just to understand, that's because we're separating riders. So you might have that elementary school bus roll through, followed by the middle school, high school bus coming through 5, 10, 15 minutes later. So I just want you to know if you get asked that question, hey, why is this happening? That's why. The second item, since our elementary schools start before the middle and high school, we don't see that as being a huge issue in the morning. However, in the afternoon, you will have elementary students being picked up prior to middle school, high school students. So there may be certain situations where an elementary student is picked up at their school, they are taken home, and if there's a babysitting situation going on or something like that with a middle school or high school student, that student will actually get home after the elementary education student. We've been assured by Cobison that the drop-off time would be no more than 15 minutes prior to that second drop-off time. So we had this conversation at BG&T and we thought about it and really, and we also had this discussion at the administrative level, and we felt that the benefits to doing these changes far outweighed these couple of caveats that we see. So I just wanted that second item to be brought to your attention, that situation could arise. Now, Ed, to satisfy your question, we're able to do all these changes, increase our safety big time, do some things that we really want to do, get rid of that transfer lane for the most part, and we are going to decrease by 4 routes. So 2 regular education routes will be gone, and 2 special education routes will be gone, saving the district a decent amount of money. So safety and efficiency at the same time. So, any questions? I bet the middle school and high school principals are very happy about the hopefully lack of a transfer lane next year. So.
Well, and one unknown yet is the number of students at the elementary level that are yet to enroll, and based on the area where they live, the attendance area for their school, we may be, creating some additional challenges. So.
You love those though, don't you?
Well, they come every year, so we just, Jeff and I have been in contact about, this new plan, so hopefully it won't impact it, but
But that's a
there's
given every
a
year.
possibility.
I mean, you got a plan and then obviously any plan is gonna have to be adjusted. And that's every year. But obviously, this is very positive.
Yeah, and Covisan, I had a long meeting with them at their new bus terminal, which I encourage, maybe BB&T will have to get out there sometime and tour their new facility, it's pretty nice.
Where is that gonna be located?
If you drive up 12, you get to that roundabout and you hang a right to go towards like Don Larson.
Yeah.
It's before you hit Don Larson on the left side there.
Okay.
But we had a long conversation about these situations where we have to place students at different schools, and we already have some ideas of how we're going to be able to mitigate those issues, so.
Jeff, is that attendance area, is that sort of set in stone? I mean, or does it more or less on the routing?
Yeah, I think
Now, does
Molly
that mean
could
if-
probably speak to the attendance areas more. I know that our attendance areas are set, but there are these situations that arise where students, due to capacity issues at certain schools,
Right.
students have to be placed at different schools. So that's what Molly's mentioning.
Yeah.
So you can adjust them a little bit if you have to have more students in one.
Not quite, but we try and do that. Typically, there are two things we can do to try and balance class size. One is what we call a parent request, which is where the parent wants their child to attend a school that's not in their Baraboo attendance area. And the other one is a district placement, where we say, this class in this building is too full, so we need to place you in this other building. And so sometimes that goes smoothly and is a non-issue, and sometimes due to the distance, busing might be involved.
In item 1 that Molly just mentioned, when it's a parent request that they go to a different school, then they are not provided transportation. It's only when the district is placing them at a separate school that they receive transportation.
Sometimes.
I could see year to year where, like, so you got a route, well, like, it used to be out in Bentry, out by Fairfield, up to the school at the time, remember? And it took, lock half of them up to North Freedom, well, that was a little shaky at the time, wasn't it? Because people sort of wanted to keep going to Fairfield, but your population changes and stuff. So, but you also work with on the routing stuff too, in a way.
The formal boundaries in Baraboo, I don't think have been changed since 1991. And I think that's when you're referring to that challenge between west to 12 and east to 12 and north of whatever, when we were working with the Fairfield and the North Freedom populations. But we really try and work with families to keep children together, to try and, help people out whenever we can, both the people enrolling as well as the district enrollment and class sizes. So generally, it works out pretty well.
It's been that long ago already.
So if your child is supposed to go to west, and the parent wants the child to go to east, does a bus take that child from west to east?
No.
The parent has to?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Brings us then to personnel recommendations. Under the approval of resignations, you were forwarded information in regards to 2 that we need to act upon tonight. The first is Jessica Hopp, which is 2nd grade at Al Bierman, and the second is Laura Mulher, and that was kindergarten at Al Bierman. And then if you would add, if you have not already, under B for the new hires, under number 5 at 6 would be Lisa Hartley, and that is for the English position here at the high school. So that having been said, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the 2 resignations as mentioned.
I move to approve the 2 resignations as presented.
Second.
Motion by Meering, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us then to the approval of the new hires. I'll run through the list. Jack Young Middle School Choir, Andrea Kozlowski, Jack Young Middle School Science, Alexandra Krukas, Abe, 4th grade, Taylor Rashka, 5th grade at Abe, Barb Walter, GLW 1st grade, Teresa Berg, and at the high school here for English, Lisa Hartley. I would entertain a motion for the approval of those 6 new hires.
Move to approve the 6 hires.
Second.
Motion by Meering, seconded by McNevin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Brings us to new business. Receipts and disbursements were provided to you in your board packet. I would entertain a motion for the approval.
Second.
Motion by McNevin, seconded by Cummings. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Brings us to B, the establishment of the board meeting dates for the 2015-16 school year. Those who looked at the calendar in reference to the Packers and a Monday night game, there is an issue with the annual meeting and a Packer game with Kansas City. Other than that,
I move to approve.
I'll second.
having a motion by Mearing, seconded by Mortimer. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Brings us then to C, the approval of the part-time custodial posting. You were presented information in your board packet from Mr. O'Brien. He is under the weather and not with us tonight. So for any questions that may arise and a walkthrough in the situation, I will turn to Mr. Prefer. That is if there are any questions.
That was a pretty complete report. I thought it was very comprehensive.
And one item that I will note is that while we are adding a position, Dan and I have figured out a way to decrease his budget next year by $15,000 to offset the cost of this part-time position. So adding this position will be cost neutral for the district.
Okay. I move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mearing, seconded by Cummings for the approval of the posting for the part-time custodial position. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Brings us then to 9 on the agenda, which is for closed session. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session as per the statutes quoted.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Cummings.
Aye.
McNevin.
Aye.
Mearing.
Aye.
Mortimer.
Aye.
Bodak. Aye. Thank you. We are convened in open session. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the resignation of Chris Labitz, and in that acceptance of resignation, waive the liquidation of damage fee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.